Welcome to This Week in Missouri Politics. We are joined by the 57th Governor of the great state of Missouri, Governor Mike Parson. Welcome back to This Week in Missouri Politics.
Hey, always good to be here, Scott. Always get a chance to visit with you.
What a great win. Next week's the Super Bowl. I was worried, but I tell you, Mahomes, he always plays it cool.
I tell you what, anytime you got 15 and Andy Reid in your corner, I'll take that combination every playoff game you want to put us in. So, yeah, it's an exciting time to be the Chiefs. For me, it's really sweet because the 6 years I've been governor, they have won the AFC Championship. They've been in the AFC Championship 6 times. They're going to go, out of those 6 years, they're going to go to the Super Bowl 4 times out of 6.
You know, if they win this year, they might consider giving you another term.
Then it's a repeat for the first time in 20 years. So, hey, how about I just quit right there and go home with a repeat?
Go out on top.
Yeah, let's go out a winner.
That's probably not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Speaking of going out on top, your state of the state. I thought it was a excellent state of the state for the situation. Wrapping up, I mean, historic 6 years.
Oh,
I had Ashley Awney, a future Democrat leader, on the show, and she was responding to it, and I was like, look, I understand some of the accomplishments you may not agree with, but what an amazing breadth of accomplishments in 6 years.
You know what, Scott, when you go back, everything we've been through in the state of the state to address all the things we've been able to do under the circumstances done, it is incredible. But it's just not me. It's about a lot of people had with the vision that I had when it really come to workforce, infrastructure, and really just putting people first, as I said, in the state of the state. I really believe no matter who you are in the state, you want the state government to function. One thing you want it to do, take care of what they need to take care of and stay out of my business the rest of the time. And I think when you look about all the accomplishments we've done in the state, I'm just really proud to be where we are in the state of Missouri versus all the other states in the United States. And again, we're just on the right track. We've got a great foundation. So when I do leave, somebody else is going to get to come in and stand on that foundation.
When I met you in the legislature, I didn't think in my lifetime 70 would be redone. They were talking about it then.
Oh, yeah.
When you're in the House.
Yeah.
Did you ever think in your time in government you'd actually redo I-70?
I have no idea. I had no idea you was going to do what you are with infrastructure across this state. I mean, when you think of the rail, the river ports, the bridges, all the things we've done, broadband, and then throw I-70 on top of that, Buckle Neal Bridge. I mean,
there's a lot of things in government, though. If you're just a Missourian working for a living, you don't really associate with it. Just those are things that happen. They do it, right?
Yeah.
I-70 is something that, but for you coming in, sharpening that pencil, making the commitments, it doesn't happen. That's something that you could be proud of for the rest of your life.
Those are things you're going to look back on. Yeah. You're going to go down that road someday. All of us will, and say, I remember when this happened. We had a little piece to do with this. And I got to give a thanks to Lincoln Huff. I mean, Lincoln believed in the vision we had and take it to another level. But
it's something about putting cattle farmers in charge of stuff. I don't know.
Well, there's nothing wrong with common sense. Believe me, we could use a little bit of that over there right now with a little common sense. But I think to really redo I-70 and really make it 6 lanes is something that was a pipe dream 5 years ago.
Let's talk about a couple other things on that legacy. Everybody that runs as a Republican talks about being pro-life. It was your time as governor that ended abortion in the state of Missouri. It's something to be very proud of.
You know, there's no doubt in my mind when you really get down to the fundamentals of what we believe, what me believe in my Christian beliefs, in what I believe in life, especially as a grandparent and now as a great-grandparent. When we went from 8,000 abortions a year in our state when I first come up to the Capitol, Republicans kept chipping away, making sure it was constitutional, number one, make sure we was doing it right. It's pretty neat when I'm now the governor after how it began, and you can go up there and say, we don't have any more abortions in the state of Missouri. That was a huge win for me and a huge honor for the legislative branch.
A big debate coming up on the FRA, how most rural hospitals are funded in this state. There's a way to exclude Planned Parenthood, but you could put that money in jeopardy. Currently, does the state of Missouri write any checks to Planned Parenthood?
Absolutely not. There's no funding going to them. Look, most people won't even know what FRA is when me and you are talking about it, but it's billions and billions of dollars a state.
If it goes away, you'll know because your hospital will close.
Yeah, you can't even operate without that, and that's just the truth about it. So we'll see how this plays out in the political arena, but at the end of the day, they'll get FRA done.
What an amazing thing Governor Bond did when he was in the Senate. He leveraged things and made, he funds rural Missouri hospitals. What an amazing legacy Kit Bond left.
Oh my gosh, that's just one of pieces of his legacy. But Kit Bond was a real statesman. He's a friend. I've had the utmost respect for him as he's moved his way through the political career, but he really knew how to get things done. people want you to get things done if you're going to come up here. You don't have to do everything, but basic fundamental things, what Kit did, is what we all should be doing.
About abortion, do you worry that maybe you went a little far, and maybe the folks in the state, like they have in Ohio, Texas, other states, maybe the law is a little further out than where the folks are?
I think what you got to, when you talk about the abortion issue today, you got to realize really where people are. Number one, so you have an element that is pro-life and you have pro-choice. Both of those sides are pretty well right where they were going to be. That's just what they believe.
Do you think there's some folks that are pro-life that worry that the current Missouri law is a little too aggressive?
I don't think there's any question about that. I mean, that's been brought up before with different people in the ranks of the Republicans. I mean, to be able to say that. I think you got to be careful when you start tipping the scales too much. But I think when you're out there really trying to protect life, you're always trying to make sure it doesn't come back or somebody doesn't change something. So we'll see. But in Ohio, it didn't work. You know,
big fight over initiative petition reform. That was sort of the backdrop to some drama in the Senate. When it really came through, though, there's a way to look through this. If they pass a reform measure for initiative petitions, it'll come to you. Yeah. I assume that's an August thing you'd like to do?
Yeah, well, we'll take a look at that and see. You know, I haven't.
If that's the case, do you worry, though, you'll set up a November abortion initiative petition that, I mean, I don't think that'll be helpful to Republicans.
I don't think there's any question you don't want the thing on the ballot because, one, they're going to be out funding the other side. There's no question about that. We know that will happen. The frustrating part, but there's no use to talk about it because it's water under the bridge. But this initiative petition issue has been out there year after year after year for several years. Matter of fact, I even handled it when I was in the Senate, you know, when we were dealing with the HSUS and animal rights groups in our state. That should have already taken place. And I told the legislators earlier this year when I met with them, that should be their number one priority, get it to me. So we'll see. We'll see if they can get it across the finish line.
If they get it done, what do you think is the right way to do that? I mean, it feels like it should be a little harder to put things in the Constitution.
I don't think there's any question. I don't know what that magic number is, 60%, whatever it might be. But you'll have both people on each sides of that issue will argue that, whether you should or you shouldn't, that you're taking away the voice of the people. The reality of this whole process is the only people changing our Constitution and changing our laws are people with lots of money that can generate lots of money to do it. And then all of a sudden you got to realize, well, it's lawyers that's writing the script here. It's not the people, it's not the legislative branch. These are attorneys that are writing this up.
Do you prefer to be like this concurrent majority where it's a mix of congressional districts or state rep districts, or do you just prefer it to be a regular old percent?
You know, I would probably say, I think you should go to congressional districts. I probably kind of like that a little bit. You know, and the only reason is you're getting a taste of it. Missouri's so divisive. I mean, you know, when you look where we are with COVID, how people in urban areas took the COVID measures they took, and then how much in rural Missouri, and our schools and our economies, there's just two different elements here in Missouri. And so I would say the congressional districts would be a good way to do it. Everybody has a voice in it.
It always kind of galled me that you don't go to Dexter, you don't go to Scotland County, you don't go to Grant City and get signatures. Because I just have a feeling there's someone watching this in Lee Summit at a Hy-Vee that would sign a paper from the government at where they live, or Chesterfield at Schnucks. Boy, you go to Hickory Log and Dexter, I don't know that old boys are going to tell you where they live just for the government for nothing.
Well, first of all, you're not going to Dexter to sign petitions. You go there for barbecue.
That's also true.
So let me make sure why we go to Dexter on that.
You'll see Charlie Cruz and barbecue, right?
Yeah, there you go. You got that. You know what? Again, people just look at things differently there. But everybody should have a voice. I mean, there's one thing I believe. I don't think the urban areas should overwhelm the rules or the rule overwhelm urban. There's a bridge to be had where we can gap this, but everybody needs to have a voice. And if you're going to do an initiative petition, everybody in southeast Missouri ought to have a say in that also.
Do you worry sometimes rural Missouri folks are just too nice, and our urban friends maybe a little more aggressive and take a little more than their share?
You know what? I grew up on a farm. You know where my background is. Most people in rural Missouri, I will tell you, don't really pay a lot of attention to government. The one thing they do care about is they want government to stay away and leave them alone. That's the one thing they're going to set out there.
For the last 5 years,
can't do that.
You've been there to backstop rural Missouri.
Yeah.
You're leaving at the end of this year.
Right.
Do you worry that this party has become too urban, too weak, too concerned and obsessed with urban areas? And who's going to stick up for ag? Would anybody else have done that special session and drug that across? Do you worry that maybe when you leave, who cares about rural Missouri?
I don't think there's any question I care about that deeply, because rural Missouri, 90 of the counties, of the 114 counties in this state, are third-class counties, which means that's rural Missouri. That's what we're made up of who we are in this state. If you don't have a voice for agriculture, the largest industry in the state of Missouri,
Yep.
and you look at all these other people, big companies, corporations, they got people walking down the Capitol hallways all day. Well, these farmers don't have that ability. That's why somebody has to understand agriculture and what it means to go through a drought, what it means when the rivers flood, what it means to the economy and how they get by. Look, Missouri, I may be a dying breed, I hope I'm not, but you could be very well jeopardizing whether you're going to have another rural governor or not. So people really need to think this next governor's race, who does have the ability to bring rural Missouri to the table?
Nixon left. He left a lot of appointments open. I know the appointment there's probably maybe left a little bad taste in their mouth from the last ones, but it is so vital for you to, I mean, a new governor, you had to, kind of come and drink out of a fire hydrant, but a new governor has so many things to worry about. Do you think it's very important? How important is it to fill those? Governor Nixon, the one thing I think is a criticism, he didn't fill those, and the state suffered. Do you think it's imperative for you to fill those positions?
There's no question about that. When you look at things like mental health, when you look at nonprofit organizations, when you look at parole and probation, tax commission, labor, you can almost go down the line. If you don't have those positions filled, then they become totally inactive in what their jobs are, which creates all the problems you talk about. So we really took priorities of which commissions we feel like is the most important, and we said, look, we got to get them up and we got to get them to where they can function and do government business. And again, going back to just good people do good work. Everybody you've mentioned so far, they're not all from the same party, but the point of it is,
well, they can't be, right?
They understand how to deal with some of this situation, and you don't need a rookie up here all the time.
When you're looking back, you've done 5 of these sessions now. An election year, your last year is a little tough, but boy, it just kind of feels like there's a unsettling that you might see some big things come your way. If there's something you'd like to see, what would you like to see?
I think at the end of it, I want to make sure and build on to what we've already got accomplished, and go out. I said in the state, I want to leave here with my head up, and that's where I want to be from Teresa, go back home. I'll be honest with you, all the things we've done prior to this moment that I'm sitting here talking to you has been so extremely important to the state of Missouri. This took us to another level that we never imagined we could be at. So protecting what we've done so far is probably what I'm going to do on the way out, and then just kind of go around telling people a lot of thanks for a lot of support over the years on a lot of different issues.
It is something. I mean, when you took this office, if you were on vacation somewhere and they ask you where you're from and you say Missouri, they'd be like, oh, well, a lot of shenanigans happening there, right?
Yeah.
You can't hold your head up high and sound for Missouri right now.
Yeah.
And that whatever folks think of your public policy accomplishments or your opinions, no one, not even Representative Awney last week, could say the governor's not a good man. I trust his word.
Yeah. To do what we've been through from the day one when I got sworn in as governor, I think it's important for Missourians, and someday one of the things I want to explain what that was like. But we literally walked into a governor's office that looked like something out of ghost stories. I mean, there's nobody there, there's empty desk, everybody just left. Nobody stayed and says, hey, can we help you? And I think looking back on it, it's one of those things, I still to this day don't understand why some of the people in there that I knew didn't stay and help. Very few did. But that's always something that stuck into my craw.
Maybe it was good for a clean break, though.
It
I mean,
probably
you have worked Willard until he lost his hair. So.
Yeah, probably so. But the point of it is, I just think the world of the state, and I expect people in public service to make sure they don't turn their backs on the people of the state. And I feel like some did that.
Speaking of the last, you got a book coming out, No Turning Back, G57. When does this book come out? And tell me a little bit about it.
Well, first of all, that's a little bit of history of my life, good and bad. I will tell you that right now. It's about as honest as I could be in it, to where I made the First Lady pretty nervous about some of the things I put in there. But the reality of it is, it talks about my mom and dad being sharecroppers and going from farm to farm, living on other people's land, and kind of growing up in that environment, being kind of where I come from. The thing that I think is so important about the book is, I hope people will read it. I hope they'll look at it and say, I'm a little like he was. I was just an average person trying to walk my way through life, and all of a sudden you can be the governor, coming from no matter what background you come from making mistakes. A lot of things in your lifetime can be turned around, and I've been so fortunate and so blessed to have so many people walk into my life and my career that got me to be governor. But one of the things in this book, I will tell you, there's a part in there that got me a little emotional when I first looked at a draft. and it said, my mom and dad, Victor and Helen Parson. Little did they know when they were going to the hospital to have Mike Parson. Never did they ever realize that that was going to be the 57th governor of the state of Missouri. And I about choked up on that myself, thinking they would have not had a clue where I would have ended up. But
And when is this book?
it comes out March the 1st. March the 1st to the public. You can order it online. You can just go to Mike Parson, No Turning Back, and it'll tell you how to order the book and everything. And then we'll have some available up here around Jeff City.
Sure.
I'll try to sign a few of them, and we'll take a little tour around the state. And I really need people to buy it too, Scott. I'm just telling you right now. Because if they don't, my biggest fear is all these books are going to be in my garage.
You have no room for the hay. You'll have these
I have
books
no
in the
room
barn,
for
right?
my tractors. And I'm not leaving my John Deere tractor outside. I'm telling you right now. So
Well, Governor, thank you so much. We appreciate the time.
appreciate it, Scott.
We'll be right back with our opinion maker panel after this.
For more than a century, the St. Louis Carpenters Union has shaped our communities. Through trusted alliances, we deliver skilled professional craftspeople while our business partners provide the kind of quality jobs that keep our economy humming. It's a blueprint that has worked since 1882. Turning Missouri into a right-to-work state stalls progress, wipes out jobs, and kills momentum. Right to work is wrong for everyone. Let's keep Missouri moving forward. Visit carpdc.org to learn more.
Missourians know that big futures have small beginnings. That's why over 86% of Missouri voters believe early childhood education is essential to success later in life. While almost every voter agrees expanding access to childcare will attract jobs and help more parents succeed at work. And more than 7 in 10 Missouri voters say improving early childhood education will make our communities safer. Find out how you can help grow Missouri's bright future at mochampionofchildren.com.
We all know puppy mills, cruelty, neglect, and pet store puppies are at high risk for disease, even death. We expect our laws to protect dogs, but now an out-of-state company called Petland is trying to change our state law to enable puppy mill cruelty. We all know it'll hurt the dogs we love. Contact your state legislators. Tell them, protect our dogs. Vote no on the cruelty. Vote no on the harmful puppy mill bill.
Data captured by our state-of-the-art monitors helps us pinpoint the timing and location of severe weather more accurately and respond to trouble more quickly. Ameren Missouri's investment in smart technologies like this is one way we're improving reliability and restoring power faster than ever. Responding to trouble before trouble hits. That's energy at work. Ameren, Missouri.
Welcome back to This Week in Missouri Politics Opinion Maker Panel Time. Steve Butz, South City, St. Louis. I love your Francis Park, one of the true gems of the city.
It is, Scott. Thanks for having me back, and we're there a lot. It's a good place to visit.
Cyndi Buchheit-Courtway from Jeffco. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you, sir. Good to be here.
And Representative Rudy Veit from good Cole County. Representative, you've been trying to say we should have a presidential primary. Tell folks about it.
Well, we had a presidential primary. In fact, in 2021, there was a bill introduced to eliminate it, and I filed an amendment, and it didn't get eliminated. In 2022, it got put on the bill the last day on the election bill, and it was too late to fight it at that stage, and now we don't have it. Last year, the biggest failure I've had up here, and Cyndi worked very hard with me, is that we didn't get the presidential primary reinstated. The presidential primary, you can argue it's not binding and everything else, but it is binding on the first vote, and it gave people the feeling they had an input. I've had constituents call me now, my son's in some foreign country serving the military. He doesn't get a vote. He can't vote. The teachers, workers, judge, everybody who's working, and more importantly, most people don't feel comfortable. My parents would never miss a vote. Would they go to a caucus? No way. I've been in caucuses. The average person will not participate because you get a lot of it done before you go there, and more importantly, they don't feel comfortable doing that. Everybody would like to go vote, and they feel a part of it. And we want people to feel part of our society. We have taken that away from them.
Representative, it isn't, I mean, real people aren't going to a caucus. It's hard enough for folks that are raising a family, trying to work a job, to take 20 minutes out and vote. And in your neck of the woods, those lines are so long, it almost keeps people from voting by default. A caucus is just not real for most people.
Yeah, I agree with that. You know, it's not our tradition, right? And it doesn't lay. I understand how it's always worked in Iowa, and it's kind of fun. being the first to kick off the whole primary season. But I'm going to agree with Rudy. People like to vote.
If Missourians were first in the nation, that might be a different story.
Right.
But when we're at best 15th or whatever, regular folks aren't going to take off in caucus. You're going to have just your most activist, wild-eyed, partisan folks making these decisions.
That's what I think, and we're going to get even more extreme candidates, possibly.
Well, and maybe it did need some changing. And I talked to the Secretary of State when their bills were coming in to replace it. If you don't like something, you don't eliminate it. If it's a needed thing, you figure out how to replace it if you don't like it. Instead, they put out bills in there that eliminate it with no recourse to take care of it other than caucus.
The truth is, and then what's Missouri's in March 2nd or something?
Yes, sir.
Ain't nobody at the Elks Lodge on Saturday leaving the Elks Lodge in Festus to go to this caucus. That's just not real.
You're correct. And last year, there was 26 people that spoke in favor of it. We had people from the military. We had the Fraternal Order of Police. We had someone from the medical field, the laborers. We had party people, not just Republican Party people, but Democrat Party people. We had people come in support of this bill and getting the presidential preference primary back. But here's the bottom line. The people who are against it, they don't like that it is going to cost the state $10 million. But that's every 4 years, right? And how can we put a price tag on people's voices?
I bet you Tom Timpson at ABC totally appreciates what you're trying to do.
And I think a good number of those people who were against it, the 10 million was just a smokescreen. They do not want a presidential primary. They want caucus. It certainly gives certain power to certain.
At the very least, could you have it on the municipal election day in April? It's a little late in the process, but I mean, that would cut down some cost, right?
That created the problem. And in fact, after we got into it, it cost more money moving in April, and St. Louis had a real problem with it. The clerks down there said they couldn't do it. We made that change, and that brought the St. Louis people explaining how much it would cost them. And so the clerks didn't want it at the regular time. They certainly didn't want it on the 16th. So the total cost was actually going up.
That's interesting.
So that's where we went to the 16th. And then we did have the bill over in the Senate where it was going to get out, and we thought it had a chance and would go out. And then some people wanted to put closed primaries on it. And people in my district don't like closed primaries. They tell you it's none of their business what they're voting for, and they walk into the voting
Well, that
booth.
sounds a lot like Jeffco folks. I mean, they don't want to tell you who they're voting for. That's not.
No.
They're going to vote Republican, but they don't want to tell you, right?
Right.
That ain't your business.
Right. Well, I
There
did
you go.
file a bill to try to bring it back again this year, and I filed it with an emergency clause. I mean, what do they say in football? You can get that Hail Mary out there. So I did talk to some party people who talked to the national party people on our side, and they did say that maybe if we could get it through early enough and get it through the House, the Senate, the governor could sign it with that emergency clause on it, maybe we could do it. Maybe we could have the first one this coming year in April instead of in March like we have planned. But the bottom line is Rudy and I last year, we worked hard with everybody who brought us any kind of consideration. And we tried to get what was best for the state because we want all Missourians to be heard.
Let's talk about an issue, Steve, that came to the House this week. Open enrollment. Brad Pollitt, a really solid guy, former school superintendent. It's a form of school choice. You could essentially, if schools have extra seats in one school and you'd rather take your kid to that school, you can take them there. It made it through about 86 votes. What do you think of it?
So I'm against it, but not strongly. And I think that shows by the vote. There were a lot of people really weighing which way to go. I'll just say, this is one of these times I've got a little bit of a myopic vision being from the city of St. Louis. There was decades where we had a form of open enrollment in desegregation. Courts forced it. I think a lot of people looking back over 30 years or so would say it devastated primarily North St. Louis and ruined a lot of neighborhoods. The flip side of that is there were thousands of kids whose parents chose to get them into Lindbergh, for example. Former Rep. Bruce Franks, for example, went to Lindbergh. Tashara Jones, Rasheen Aldrich, all were in the DSEG program, which is wrapping down. But at the end of all that DSEG, our schools are still pretty well not integrated very much. It's been a difficult
the communities
challenge.
aren't integrated, right?
They're not.
That's the truth.
It's one of the big issues we have in St. Louis that just goes on and on. We're still too darn siloed, especially for the size of the city we've become.
Rudy, I mean, you're a rural Missouri guy. I think that of all the education reforms out there, this would be the one that might be the most palatable. It's sponsored by a rural Missouri guy and Brad Pollitt. it did make it through, but I kind of observed the same thing Representative Butz did. A lot of folks had to think long and hard about it.
Well, my logic was basically I was against it philosophically because I am a big public school supporter. But this means those kids that are unhappy will stay in public schools, and it gives you a perfect opportunity to respond to vouchers and ESIs. Any child now will have 2 or 3 school districts to go to. If he can't find a good enough education in 2 or 3 school districts to choose from, maybe he ought to reevaluate his own.
What do you think, Representative?
Well, I like that, there's choices here. I believe parents and children need choices. So this bill only allows 3% of the school base to be able to leave per year. So that means not everybody's going to flock out of a school, which I think is great. Then we also have each individual school district can determine whether they want to participate or not. So if I have a school district and I don't want any extra kids coming in, we're full, we have enough, I can say, nope, I don't want them. But if I have, say, 4 seats in kindergarten and 3 seats in 3rd grade, I can offer those out there and say, hey, this is what I have. Excuse me, you're more than welcome to bring your kids in here. So I think it's great. I think giving our parents and our kids some of those extra choices, because some of them need some extra help, and going to a different school district is going to give them that.
Speaking of extra help, we have our state's woman this year of the year. We'll be announcing who that is coming up next week. But we're going to have the auction for the Women Legislators Conference, correct? Which
Absolutely.
You're very involved in.
Yes.
Folks can go. It's going to be in Jefferson City. It'll be on March 5th. But they can start going to my social media. So find my social media on the internet. You can start bidding on these items like this signed Chiefs helmet that you secured, not bad, signed by Chris Jones. It gives scholarships to young women, right? Get into public service.
Last year we gave out 20 $1,000
awesome.
scholarships. And we include all the girls in the state. So you go to school, you fill out the application, you send it in to us. We have people that review them. 1 in each congressional district wins for sure. And then the rest of those scholarships we divvy out based off of what we get in.
And we're going to get in Rudy's wallet right on the 5th.
Well, I'll start it at $500. That's what you suggested. So.
That's a
I
classic
got to go to
guy.
600.
6? No.
We'll stop
With
there.
a minute left, you won the week.
I'm going to say, I'm bringing it pretty close to home that St. Louis County, North County in particular, because Representative Gretchen Bangert has officially announced she's going to run for the county council. I think that will be a great addition.
Won the week.
I like Gretchen, and matter of fact, I had her chair my Transportation Infrastructure Committee for me this week. I had to be out for a while to go vote on something else, and then I presented a bill, so I offered her the chance to chair it, and she knocked it out of the ballpark, and everyone clapped for her when she was done.
That's one. Who won the week?
I say it'd be Caleb Rowden because he took a very tough situation and addressed it head on and said this is the way it's going to be, and stood up and says, we do have rules and they need to be followed regardless of who you are.
I think Caleb had a very good week. I'm going to break the rules and say two. The corn growers and Brad Shabrin, Capital's always better with good rural Missouri folks up, and Erica Leonard at Marv. They have their event every year. It's a terrific way to show off an outstanding organization. We hope you'll join us next week for Congresswoman Ann Wagner's going to make a little news on This Week in Missouri Politics.
This Week in Missouri Politics is sponsored by the Missouri Automobile Dealers Association, Ameren, Spire, and the United Electric Cooperative.